You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series and syndicating for the A-List Online. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith. What follows is a conversation between myself and Jordan Rudess. He's the keyboard player in Dream Theater, but he's much more than that. He's an excellent solo artist, and he's on tour in Australia soon. I'll read out some dates. The first show is on the 21st of November in Brisbane. The next one's in Adelaide on the 22nd. Then it's Melbourne on the 23rd, Sydney on the 27th, and finally Canberra you get a show Wednesday the 28th. So let's have a listen to what Jordan has to say. Here we go.
Everything is pretty good. Yeah, can't complain.
Yeah, it's a bit like that, isn't it? It's Friday over here now, so I assume it's Thursday evening where you are, mate, but the sky is blue. It looks like it's going to be a nice day ahead, and I've got a busy day, mate, but I actually don't have much doing on the weekend outside of looking after the kids, so I can't complain too much about what the next couple of days look like.
Oh, there you go. That sounds mellow. Nice.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a musician as well, actually, and this is one of the few weekends where I don't actually have a gig, so I'll take that, actually, because as you well know, I'm a working musician, which means that I play in covers bands here, and what I mean by, as you well know, that usually means we've got to lug our own gear. So I call it the 3 a.m. weights routine.
So a little break from all that could be good one weekend. I hear you.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Yeah, definitely.
Totally. Yeah, man.
So these shows that you're bringing down here, you're obviously aware that you've got quite a fan base down here. Tell me about the type of show you're going to be bringing down this time around, though.
Sure. So it's called From Bach to Rock, which is the show I'm bringing, and it's focused on solo piano. And what it is, it's a journey. It's kind of like a Jordan Rudess journey through my musical life, which started, of course, when I was a young person studying at the Juilliard School of Music in New York City. And as most people know, is more recently has been filled with Dream Theater and a lot of other solo stuff. So that kind of pathway from this classical music to the progressive metal and everything in between is what I'm going to take people through. And the fun part of the evening is that it's not only a musical evening, it's also some storytelling. So I get to kind of use the piano and all the different styles that I'll play as a vehicle to share this story with everybody of how it kind of all came together. And it's a chance for me to really engage with the audience in a way that I don't really get to do in any other format. So yeah, that's what I'm bringing.
Yeah. So is there an opportunity there for fans to ask you questions?
Well, there is not during the concert itself, but there is. Most of these shows, have a meet and greet, and the meet and greet is a very different kind of thing than, like, for instance, like a Dream Theater meet and greet. It's a little bit. I have more of a chance to kind of interact. What I plan to do in the meet and greets is I'm going to do it partly at the instrument, and I'll talk a little. I'll play a little bit, talk about my improvisation and my technique, and then I will take some questions from the audience as well, and then do the more standard kind of take a photo with everybody and they'll get something signed.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's one of the things I'm really excited about, is because it's kind of a more intimate type of a show experience, but it's also because I can do my own style meet and greet, it's kind of a chance for me to to say hello to people in a way that I don't usually get to interact. So should be really nice.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah. Question I've actually always wanted to ask you, since I'm a Dream Theater fan, obviously, and
Cool.
you strike me as a very, very intelligent fellow. So what drew you to metal? And I'm not inferring at all that metal isn't an intelligent genre by any means, but I guess what I am saying is that you're the type of bloke that probably could have played any genre of music you chose. But one of the genres of music that you focused on is heavy metal. So what's drawn you toward heavy metal?
Well, I was never a huge metal fan, and I still am not necessarily, although I do like, certain metal. I'll turn on like Metallica and enjoy it or whatever. And, there's a time and place for me musically, for all that stuff. But what attracted me to it, well, I mean, with Dream Theater. What got me into Dream Theater was when I first heard Dream Theater, I was interested in that all of a sudden there was this band I was listening to that could play like the progressive rock stuff, but they mixed it with metal. And not only did they have this mixture, but they also had amazing chops. They could play like, kind of like a classical, like a well-trained classical virtuoso. And so that caught my ear. I was like, wow, they're like heavy, but they're prog, and they play like really their instruments so well. So that was a combination that really got me. Like, I was never like, when I was growing up, I was never into like Metallica or Iron Maiden or anything like that. I kind of was in, I played a little guitar, and I liked, AC/DC and some Judas Priest and some things like that, and some Black Sabbath. Although that wasn't my, if somebody asked me, what's your favorite kind of music, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah.
I'd more say like, progressive rock, was probably the kind I like most. But there, the enjoyment of the style, and also the way that Dream Theater was kind of like putting it together, that really interested me. So in that sense, I'm able to, have been able for the last 20 years to contribute, my part to this entity that includes metal as part of who they are, their identity.
Yep.
Yeah.
I thought that might have been the response, actually. Yeah, it's just, there's so many applications that your technical expertise would be a suitable match for. So I'm really glad you are a part of Dream Theater, obviously, because I think it gives a band an extra a sense of vitality. I really enjoyed the last couple of albums in particular. So I'm going to change gears for a sec, actually, because I wanted to do so. I've only done this with one other musician, and I've done a bit over 300 interviews at this point in time. But Herman Lee from Dragon Force, of course, I had a conversation with him, and he's worked with a lot of musicians, much like yourself. And I dove into your resume, and I've picked four musicians that you've worked with. One of them's rather obvious, but I know fans want to hear about your working with David Bowie.
Sure.
The other three, I don't know whether people are as aware that you've worked with them. So what I wanted to do is just ask for a couple of pieces from you, or thoughts from you, about what it was like to work with. And the first one is Vinnie Moore, way back in 1988 on Time Odyssey.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, that was a really interesting time for me, because working with Vinnie was kind of like one of my first steps into the of the real music business. Because Vinnie had a pretty cool thing going. He was like one of the top in this new breed of like shred kind of neoclassical players. Like was following up with like Yngwie Malmsteen kind of like concept. So when I met him, first day I met him, he just was instant. We became instant friends, and he was just kind of funny, slightly goofy, super talented guitar player, and we hit it off, right away. Matter of fact, I just played on something new of Vinny just played on something of mine on my new solo album, which is not out yet, and I just played on something of Vinny's. So we still remain connected.
Sweet. Okay. All right. The next one is, I feel this fella here is one of the most underrated musicians around, certainly in rock music, and that's Kip Winger. You worked with him in 1997 on This Conversation Seems Like a Dream.
Right. And Kip also, Kip was a vocalist on a couple of my different albums. He did some singing on A Road Home, which was an album of mostly of album of covers of my favorite prog stuff.
Yep.
And he also sang on one of my other albums, which was the Rhythm of Time album. He sang a song called Tear Before the Rain.
Okay.
We've also performed live. I think I did a radio station thing with Kip at one point in New York City years ago, where I went down, played keyboards, and he was on guitar, and Rod Morgenstein played some drums. So, lovely, lovely talent, super talented guy. Amazing classical composer, completely, an interesting career, because he was just kind of like a male model. And then, people didn't realize that he was super talented, like super talented musician. So there you go.
There you go. Okay. The next one is a fellow that I had an opportunity to chat to only recently, actually, before his Australian tour, and that was Stephen Wilson. You worked with him on Grace for Drowning, I think it was, back in 2011.
Yeah, I think I played on a couple of his albums. Just looking to remember. But anyway, Stephen is one of my favorite people. I love the guy. I love his music. I met him when he was opening up for Dream Theater with his band, Porcupine Tree, years ago. And we became, instant friends because we just had a lot in common. And we try to see each other if I'm in like the UK or if he's around here. We'll, try to find a chance to say hello. But yeah, incredible musician. Just happy to have had the chance to work with him on different stuff. He sang also on some of my recorded music. He sang on A Road Home as well, and I played on I think a couple of his albums, and then we performed live a little bit here and there, and just a nice musical personal relationship there.
Okay. And finally, of course, I have to ask you about David Bowie too. So I think you worked on Heathen back in 2002.
Yeah, so I was with Dream Theater in the studio. I think we were working on like 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence, and I got a call from Tony Visconti, who of course is a big producer guy, David Bowie's producer for so many of his albums. I had worked with Tony on some other things like Annie Haslam's music and Prefab Sprout. I did some playing on one of their albums. But Tony wanted to try some different things with David Bowie, so he thought it would be cool to bring me in to do that. And so I, of course, said yes to that gig. I was, even though I was never a big David Bowie fan, I mean, he's so iconic. Everybody knows, David Bowie. I thought this is really cool. So I spent about 12 days up in a studio in the Catskills up on a big mountaintop.
Okay.
With David and Tony and with various musicians, and it was really, really a great experience. Some funny stories. I can tell you one of which is that I walked in one day to do the recording, and it was there were 2 pianos in the room, and one of them was an upright piano that was being tuned to kind of a interesting tuning, I thought, and the other one was more like I think it was a Steinway baby grand piano, and I thought, oh great, so I'll be playing piano today, and I'll play on the Steinway, I guess. But David and Tony came in and said, no, today we're going to do piano, but you're going to play on this upright piano because it's tuned in a way that David likes to have the pianos tuned. So I thought, okay, cool. So I started to play on the piano, the upright, and then David kind of came out and said, I don't know if that's the right sound. And then I switched to the grand piano, and again, Tony came out and said, not sure this is the right sound either. I was like, well, I tried both pianos now. What are you going to do? So then, okay, so let's tape the sustain pedal down on the upright piano, open the whole lid so all the strings are exposed, move it close to the grand piano, and put mics up to the strings on the upright, and then play the grand piano, and we'll record the resonance from the upright, and that's the sound that made it to the album.
Dear God, yeah. That's very innovative, very, very imaginative.
Well, that was a technique that they said, they had used way back when. So I think the song that we did that on, if anybody's curious to hear it, I think it was called Slip Away. Slip Away. Okay. That's the name of the song off the Heathen album. I played piano and we recorded it that way.
Well, all of that, working with David Bowie and the other 3 excellent musicians that I just mentioned, allude to something, which is that you have an enormous catalogue of recorded works, probably the most out of anybody that I've interviewed, actually. So what keeps you motivated?
Oh, well, I love music, and I love all different kinds of music. So it's my life. It's my passion. I'm on the endless search for the ultimate sound, and, just being healthy and just waking up in the morning and feeling good. It's enough to get me to be inspired to go to the piano or go to one of my synthesizers or my musical devices and just and just make music.
What about the biggest challenge that you've faced? Have you been in a position where you've thought, oh God, I'm not really sure how this one here is going to go? So can you recount a time where you've really felt challenged and extended?
I felt very challenged and extended on my last tour because I was out as a special guest of Al Di Meola a few weeks ago.
Okay, yeah.
And I had hurt my back before the second show. I woke up and I was in a lot of pain, and I had to get through the entire tour before I got home and went to a real doctor and found out what was going on and was able to deal with it. And so that was like one of the biggest challenges ever, was to play 8 shows and be in so much pain like the whole time, and just kind of like figure out how to do it. But luckily, I played the piano in so many different states of mind and body over the years that that part sitting at the piano was not the hardest part. The part was more like just, everything around it, getting to the shows and, just kind of like existing.
Yeah, yeah. Being in, I've often had this conversation with musicians such as yourself, but you're less a musician when you're on the road, and you're more a professional traveller, aren't you? You get very used to airports and vending machines and staying away from complex carbohydrates and all that sort of rubbish that can be found and on the road late at night when you're starving after a gig, that sort of thing.
Right. Yeah. But you just made me remember one time years ago out with Mike Portnoy and the band, and we were on the tour bus, and we made them like pull over at a Jack in the Box or something in the middle of the night. One of these, I don't know if you have that in Australia, but it's kind of like a McDonald's or something like that.
Yeah, I'm familiar with. I've been to the States a couple of times, so I'm very. I don't eat much fast food, but I'm always when I say impressed, I don't know how many different varieties of fast food that there are in the States, but there seems to be a niche market for everybody over there. And it's open at all hours of the day and night too. So I guess if you've got the population to sustain it, it's not that healthy. What can I say? But
yeah, exactly.
Temptation's bloody there, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, look at what people look at the population. It makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, I was listening to Joe Rogan about that actually last night. I can't remember who he was interviewing, but he was making the case for the biggest issue that Americans face. It's effectively it's okay. There's the drug issue, of course, and the rise of the cartels in Mexico and the chaos that's causing. But
I think the biggest issue is Trump.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. Well, how do you think things are going to go with these midterms coming up?
Oh God, it's I don't know. I'm just so upset about this country and the whole thing here. So I hope it changes a lot.
Yeah, well, look, if it's any consolation, I don't think anybody with half a brain globally blames the American people for it. It's just a byproduct of the political system over there.
Right. It's really messed up. It's the worst that that I can remember.
We've got similar issues here. I think what happens is when you got people like the Clintons and the Trumps, they're a byproduct, or they're an outcome of the duopoly of the political system. You've got two choices only, which is just insane, really. But there's only ever one of two parties that are ever going to govern in Western countries.
Mm-hmm.
And so you get these people who are power hungry. What can you say? Really, it's. Yeah, hopefully it changes, but who bloody knows? We are but humble musicians.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you said it. That's true.
Yeah. Mate, I'd better let you go. It's been a fascinating conversation with you. Thank you so much for making the music that you have over the years. You're an extraordinarily talented artist, and it doesn't need to be said, of course, but that's, I don't know, you're one of those guys who I'm in awe of your recorded output, and good luck with the future and also on this tour in Australia.
Thanks so much, Andrew, and good luck to you too, and enjoy your weekend, man.
Oh, thank you very much, mate. Will do. Yeah, for sure.
Take care. Bye-bye now.
Gotcha. Bye. You have been listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast series and syndicating for the A-List Online. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and that conversation featured Jordan Rudess from the outfit Dream Theatre. Thank you so much for listening.